And the agenda we're going to follow is a kind of brief introduction. We're going to jump pretty quickly into how to scale your drone mapping operations, what the steps are, what the stages are, what that process looks like. Give you some insights on our onboarding process, and then we have a special limited time offer just for the live attendees for today. And then audience Q&A, but again, if you have any questions anytime, feel free to enter them, and I will address them as they come. In terms of who are we, who is identified, we have a fully managed enterprise drone solution. It's the leading one of its kind. It improves job site transparency and profitability. It's a totally integrated system that includes the flight mapping drone, the flight planning software, the analytics tools. Were used by industrial leaders in energy, excavation, mining, and engineering. They use this because outdated methods are slow, inaccurate, dangerous, and costly. And it helps them integrate their job site production, tracking, and optimization. And we're proudly headquartered in Pittsburgh, PA, serving clients around the world. And we'll get a little bit deeper into it with assorted case studies, but high level, we work with mining, construction, oil and gas, landfills, engineering, and surveying. I'll be going deeper into exactly what applications they use us for and what kind of returns on the investments they're seeing, but just high level, that's who we serve with our drone mapping capabilities. And what that workflow looks like is pretty simple. We've tried to strip it down to the bare essentials. You select your flight plan, so what area you want the drone to fly. You push the start button on the drone. We like to say it's job site mapping at the push of a button. So you push a button, the drone will automatically take itself off, fly the entire job site, come back, land itself. You scan the data up to the cloud where it's automatically processed, and then you can sit down in a computer and access and analyze your job site. So that means you fly that morning, and before you leave the office, you're already looking at the data. You're not waiting weeks or even months to get that data back, and you have some pretty useful analytics and suites of software to give you some deep insights on the job. So hopefully that wasn't too brutal for background. Now we're to the meat of the session. So that is how to scale your drone mapping operations. So high level, the 5 stages are initially you just want to explore your drone mapping adoption. Think about what your needs are, what solution might fit it. Once you have it, you'll probably just run a quick, easy, single site pilot test, one drone, one site, and just kind of see what happens. If that goes well, you may start scaling up, doing multiple sites. You'll probably need enterprise controls, so project managers have different permissions than, let's say, customers or contractors. Once you're through there, you're going to start ramping up to more advanced and predictive analytics, letting you not just see where you are, but maybe where you're going to be in a week or a month's time. And finally, the holy grail is having a fully data-driven company with digitalized work sites, digitalized operations, where all your departments are fully integrated. So they're all seeing the exact same thing, the exact same data, and able to make smart, integrated, synchronized decisions off of it. So we'll go deeper into that because I know there's a lot there. So stage 1, as we discussed, that's when you're just initially exploring the drone mapping adoption and figure out what your goals are and what capabilities you need. So that's researching it, that's thinking about in your day-to-day operations, how do you need survey data? How do you need mapping data? Is all you really need some photos? Because that's going to be a very different drone than if you need 3D analytics and volumetrics. So you've got to really figure out what your needs are. Is it photos? Is it video? Is it contours? Is it change detection technology? Is it truck and contractor tracking tools? Just how far do you want to take it? And then kind of high level, there's 3 really general areas that you see drone mapping used a lot for. It's productivity tracking to see how much work is actually getting done and how much work is left to do. It's quality control to make sure that that work is actually done right. And things like as-built versus as-plans, where you line up the digital blueprint with the actual job site and make sure everything lines up properly. And then it's stakeholder collaboration. Whether, again, it's customers or contractors, you want to make sure your whole team is walking hand in hand. And if there are any problems, that they're caught early before huge time and money has been invested. So those are kind of the big three: productivity tracking, quality control, and stakeholder collaboration. But within that, there's a whole world of possibilities on exactly what data, what reports you need. So you kind of need to figure that out before you can choose what drone or what drone solution is going to be right for your needs. Once you've figured that out, at that point you're going to need to make sure that whatever solution you go with, it also has everything you need, not just in terms of giving you the data you want, but providing everything to be a truly useful tool. So that means it's got to take care of FAA regulations, or you have to take care of that internally, not just training up for the Part 107 so all your drone pilots can fly, but also making sure all the operations are done right and done safely, doing waivers, doing all the right certifications and regulations. So that's sort of just table stakes for drone mapping. You have to make sure that you have software in place to run the drone, software in place to do the flight planning, software in place to do the analytics, and then hardware to actually do the processing, the storage, and the management. So maybe you'll do that in-house. Maybe you'll use a solution that has that all integrated for you, but either way, those are just requirements of any drone mapping operation, must have. And you'll also need risk to either take on the risk or the insurance of the drone itself and whatever the drone causes. So, you know, we are very lucky. We've never had any issues, but if a drone were to fall out of the sky and hit somebody, you want to make sure that you're covered and you're prepared. Again, maybe you do that internally, maybe that's baked into the deal. Or if the drone just malfunctions, you want to make sure, are you the one paying for it? Do you need to go out and pay $50,000 to buy a new drone? Or are you going to get one overnighted to you for free, like you do with our service? So those are just the kind of questions that you want to ask to make sure that there are no issues down the road. So FAA regulation, software, hardware, processing, storage, management, and then the risk and insurance and replacements for the drone. And with all this, you got to think about technological obsolescence too. You want to make sure that there's constantly new upgrades, both to the software and to the drone itself, because this stuff is progressing so quickly that if you just buy a drone, 2 years from now, it's going to be gathering dust and obsolete. So you have to make sure that you have a solution that is going to keep up with the latest progress and trends. Now, after you've gotten through that first stage of just figuring out, well, what are your needs? And then what solutions can deliver on those needs? Now, hopefully you'll do a single site pilot test. You may be looking at something like 3D volumetrics for stockpiles, have one drone fly, and just get some useful but relatively basic data, probably the same kind of data you were getting with surveyors before, or with a standard traditional aerial flyover. And at this test drive stage, you're going to start to see just how useful that is. Is the data accurate? Maybe doing a test comparison of that drone mapping flight versus your traditional data collection methods. And maybe you're looking at your aggregate piles to see how much inventory you have that day. But normally, it's kind of surveying a single site. And this image is straight out of SiteIQ. That's our data analytics tool. So this is exactly what you would see. And if you want to measure, let's say, what you have in an individual stockpile or a whole region of stockpiles, these are the kind of numbers you'd look at. Now, if that goes well, then you're probably going to take it to the next stage and actually start to expand out from a single site at a very modest pilot test to multiple sites with enterprise controls. So now you're adopting the drone program more deeply into your company operations. You're taking it from a single cautionary test to now kind of a regional expansion. You're able to share data with clients, but you also want to have enterprise security with it. So contractors or clients aren't changing information or sharing information that they shouldn't be. And this is kind of the segue when people normally start to transition into really making drones part of their company and part of the way they do business and start to look at, all right, now maybe instead of just using drones to collect the data we've always gotten, let's start to figure out what drones can uniquely contribute. And one thing that's really important to remember here is if you do it yourself, or if you go with most drone solutions, the costs are going to scale up proportionally with the number of drones you have and the number of job sites you have. So if you have, we'll just pick a number, if you have one drone and one job site for $10,000 a year, and you want to move that up to 10 job sites, now it's $100,000 a year. And you want it on 100 job sites, now it's $1 million a year. One really nice thing about identified technologies is, except for a very nominal per drone fee, other than that, it's basically a pretty fixed price as you scale up. So that's why so many enterprise, large ENR Fortune 500 companies have chosen to work with us, is we are extremely affordable as you scale. It's going to be a very similar price whether you have us on 10 job sites or 1,000 job sites. And an advantage is because the drones live on your job site, instead of having one person having to drive out to 10 different job sites all over the place, you can actually just have 10 drones on 10 job sites. All the drones live on their individual site, and they're there whenever you want it, completely on demand. And we include all the training, the drone mapping operations, sort of prep, so that your people can scale up very, very quickly across your region and across your organization. And you can basically have as many people gathering as much data as often as you want on as many locations as you want, very quickly, very affordably. And then the next stage after stage 3, which is sort of multiple sites with enterprise controls, is getting to the unique data that drones are able to provide and really haven't been accessible before. Advanced and predictive analytics. So some examples of that are chains detection technology for cuts and fills. So you can look at, all right, where were we a month ago? Where were we a week ago? And let's compare the difference. Let's compare the progress we've made in that time. Given that progress over that time period, are we on track to hit our goals 2 months out? Or if we're running behind, do we need to bring in some more contractors, maybe it's some more equipment to make up the difference and actually hit our deadline? So that kind of progress tracking and forecast is invaluable. Another tool that we offer, or another capability of change detection technology, is a lot of energy companies use it for tracking right-of-ways. If they're putting in a pipeline or other utilities, they have to make sure that right-of-way stays clear. And traditionally, that's been done by boots on the ground, marching up and down, maybe tens or even hundreds of miles. Very expensive, very time-consuming. And now they just have a drone fly it, and they can use their change detection technology to basically almost instantly detect, is there vegetation there, is there a vehicle there, is there equipment there, and flag any changes that have been made in that right away. So just another kind of interesting and useful application for it. We have some brand new technology called Truck IQ, and that's an Internet of Things device specifically for the construction and earth moving market. It's a sensor package that hooks up with your trucks and lets you measure the load, the cycle time from each vehicle, track it, make sure it's as efficient as possible, and combines it with the aerial drone data to help you track and decrease unit costs and cycle time so you move earth faster and more efficiently, and find out what your exact and real costs are so you can make better bids. If you know your real cost per unit of, let's say, earth moved or acre cleared, then you can make a much better bid knowing that it's going to be profitable, and also see trends for different sorts of material, different rock, different regions, so you can sort of always bid appropriately and be much more likely to win profitable bids. So all this helps your timelines, your cash flow, helps to streamline your company operations, and helps your departments work together. Since suddenly you actually have the data you want, very accurate, very quickly to make informed decisions. And then the final stage, after the initial tests, regional expansion, and then deep drone analytics is reaching a point where your whole company is integrated together, making decisions off the same rapidly updated, near real-time data, and you have true digital job sites. So we like to call them smart sites, where everyone is seeing the same information at the same time, which may not sound like a big deal, but for people that are in industry, it's not always so transparent. Interestingly, the construction industry is the world's second largest after agriculture. It's worth about $8 trillion a year, but unfortunately it's pretty inefficient. The typical commercial construction project actually runs 80% over budget and 20 months behind schedule. And that's according to McKinsey, one of the largest consulting firms in the world. About $3 trillion of that $8 trillion gets lost in a cascade of change orders, rework, and schedule slips. Again, that's McKinsey. It is unbelievable. But it's caused by inefficiency, because when expensive contractors and rental equipment go unused due to bottlenecks that could have been prevented with better data, leads to inefficiency. Waiting for customers to get out to the site to approve portions of work and release funds for the next section leads to project delays. When projects do go over budget, it usually comes directly out of the construction company's profits. And obviously, if customers experience disappointments on their project, they may not use you again, they may stop mid-project or even file lawsuits, which can lead to lost customers. So the reason drone mapping is exciting is it gives you that real or near real-time data, that continuous job site visibility, so your team can finally make those fast, informed decisions. It's accurate, it's automatic, it's safe, it's secure, and it helps put an end to those bottlenecks and those surprises. So some of the examples of ways that this data is used across departments are for project management, and that can be a project manager, it can be a plant manager, quarry manager, pit manager, landfill manager, operations manager, whoever's job it is to oversee things and make sure that the job is done right. In some companies, that could even be a VP of operations or a superintendent. Traditionally, these people are walking, 25, 100, 200 acre job sites, are driving it on a truck. They're managed the same way today that they were 20 years ago, where construction is just done off of rolled up paper blueprints. The managers are walking the site with clipboards, taking notes and pictures. All the stakeholders have to physically visit the job site to check the progress. And aerial overhead data is only rarely captured due to the large costs and delays to actually charter a whole plane or helicopter, get the pilot out, get the jet fuel out. Easily spending $20, $25, even $50,000 for a mapping session like that. And it's just not cost effective. So what drone mapping does is finally these project managers get their whole team on the same page. They get accurate data. They know what their real costs are. They know what their real progress is. They can see where they're at. And this may not sound like a big deal, but getting this accurate, near real time data safely collected and affordably available has never happened before. This is the first time in the history of the industry that it's been available. And then for the land surveyors, it's their job to collect the data. And if you've been on these job sites, you're dodging giant trucks bigger than most houses. You are trying to avoid sliding down ledges, hazardous ground, rocky terrain, hilly areas, water. It's not pleasant, and it's not easy, especially some of these places you may have 100-degree heat while you're juggling all that. So now, for the first time, you can sit back, activate your drone, and watch it fly. It'll go, collect the data, come back, land itself, and you are never in harm's way. And also, you don't have to shut down the job site while you're marching through it. Shutting down a job site can easily cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. It's important to do for safety so the surveyor doesn't get run over. But now you can just have the drone fly, and you don't have to shut everything down, and you're not putting people at risk. So the surveyors like it because it's obviously much safer, much more pleasant. Robots are great for doing the kind of work that people don't necessarily want to do or that puts them at risk. It's accurate. We have specific case studies vetted by third parties comparing our accuracy versus traditional methods, and they're comparable or better. And the other thing is speed. To do a 100-acre job site can easily take a month. And it's not just the cost of paying someone for all that work, but it's the cost of now you're getting that data a month later. And if anything's wrong, then it's been wrong for a month. Maybe you've been investing time and resources into it for a month. It's a little bit late to go back now and change things. So now you're paying people for a few minutes or a few hours work instead of months work, and you're getting that rapid data back, so you can actually make informed decisions off of it. The worst thing is on a rapidly changing job site, if you get that data back a month later, it's wrong because it's showing you where you were, not where you are. It's like if you can try to imagine driving your car, if you could only look through the rear view mirror, it'd be pretty tough, right? You only know where you were, not where you're going. So this finally gives you that near real-time transparency. Now, for some of the leadership positions in a company, the CEO is responsible for the success or failure of the company. And drone mapping helps them ensure that projects are completed on time and on budget. That obviously improves client retention, a word-of-mouth reputation, and increases profits. And to rise above competition, you have to differentiate what your company is, what you do, how you do it, and drone mapping gives you a unique selling point when bidding new jobs. It also positions the CEO and company as innovative industry leaders. And now instead of just telling people about the jobs you've done or the similar work you've done, you can actually show them before and after of other projects in your portfolio to actually bring that real visual to them. And I know they say picture says 1,000 words, and nothing can really replace seeing that in front of you. Often second in command to the CEO is the COO, or maybe the VP of operations. For them, they're responsible for the operations and the efficiency of the company. They're able to work with drone flight data from the cloud, and they get that data in hours as opposed to weeks or months, and the stakeholders all finally get the timely and accurate information they need to make informed decisions. They're happy because it's reliable, it's functional, it empowers their teams with more information transparency and communication. Things get done better and faster and safer, and this allows the projects to be completed with less rework and less wasted time and resources. So gets that speed and that efficiency that they love. Now the CFO, they take responsibility for the financial condition of the company. This could also be the VP of Finance. Their job is to minimize costs, especially upfront prepayments and surprise extras they weren't expecting. So if you work with a lot of drone mapping companies out there, they're going to try to kind of nickel and dime you, add a bunch of things in, maybe after you've already signed your contract. And one thing we pride ourselves in is it's really all included. We offer $5 million general liability and policy for our drones, FAA regulations and training, complete system development, all the data processing, all the maintenance, free replacements of the drones. That's all included with no extra expenses. And you don't, if you want to build your own thing internally, you can easily be spending $500,000, and that's all up front before you get any value out of it. So we have a subscription model, so there's no upfront massive capex. You're really only paying as you're getting value, and there's no sort of free surprises. If anything's damaged or malfunctioned, it's on us to fix it. We overnight you a new one so things don't slow down. Now for the CIO, the CTO, maybe the director of technology, they're responsible for the company's technology footprint. Their job is to identify new technology products that can give the company a competitive advantage within the industry. So I already talked about the fact that we're rolling out updates almost daily to the software to give you new capabilities and make sure it's running sort of better and faster and giving you new capabilities constantly. We also update your hardware because we want you to always have the latest, greatest drone that's included with our service so you can avoid technological obsolescence. We handle all the training and distribution to help you scale up, whether you need just one drone on one job site or 1,000 drones on 1,000 job sites. And having everybody trained up, we practice what we preach. It is literally map your job site at the push of a button. So it doesn't get any easier than that for scaling. And if you're an engineering company or you're kind of serving clients or maybe a survey firm, then one factor here is time to market. Do you want to get your drone operations available in 2 years or 3 years when you have all the bugs out? Or do you want it available, in maybe a couple days? We can usually go from signed contract to your first flight and your first data within about 72 hours. So it really, really gets that time to market cut down. And it's not really going to be on you to get everyone in your organization trained, get the technology troubleshooted. You have a dedicated client success manager working with us, a flight team. We're holding your hand every step of the way. We don't just hand you the drone and go. It is on us to make sure that we understand your needs, we understand your company strategies, and that you are getting a great value and out of the technology. And that's on us, not on you. I want to give a couple of quick case studies. One for, I've already talked a lot about earth moving and construction, so hopefully I've driven that home. But I want to tell you a couple of examples for energy, mining, and materials. And then we will open it up for the Q&A. So if you have questions about regulations, about applications, about capabilities or limitations, all that's fair game. And if there's anything I don't know, then I will at least be able to refer you to people that do. So for this example, this is a contour map that we got working with Seneca Resources. And they're one of the largest mineral rights owners in Pennsylvania, operating about 3,000 wells in the state's shale play. They deployed one of our boomerang systems in the construction of an impoundment pond, and following the success there, a 75-acre water management facility. The project was interesting because it included stockpiling earth on one portion, while construction was underway on another, and they were also building a Marcellus pad on the site to tap into the region's rich natural gas field. So this is a cool site because it has so much going on. You got tank contours, tree line, stockpiles, and they wanted to compare an as-built versus as-planned to make sure everything was lining up. Using handheld GPS devices, it would take their team about a week or more to complete this mapping. The boomerang system that we used was able to map the entire site in 10 minutes and generate accurate topographical maps and imagery to check the as-planned and as-built. They had that data back within hours. And we got a nice quote from Josh McLaughlin. He's their GISP manager at Seneca. He said, "Cutting our data capture time down to just a few minutes while maintaining sub-centimeter mapping precision is a game changer." He talked a little bit more about it, and he said if the company is behind on construction, it is still paying for the rig, which can cost $35,000 for each day on the pad. And they're getting no return on that investment until they begin. So being able to save, a week of time adds up to some real money. You're looking at maybe $250,000 for that week of time. So that was a nice case study for energy. And I mentioned before it can be used for things like detecting right-of-way issues before they become big problems, using change detection software, regulatory compliance with the FERC and all other energy industry regulations, because that continuous mapping helps you identify and fix issues fast to stay compliant. If you do have a problem, you can do emergency response. Instead of sending people in harm's way, you can have drones go out, do risk identification and oversight to minimize damage. These drones fly at the push of a button. They're ready whenever you are, and you can capture that emergency response data fast and know where to send responders. And frankly, it's difficult capturing accurate survey data for energy construction projects. You may have dozens or hundreds of thousands of well pads, of impoundment ponds all over the place, and to have accurate, updated progress reports and mapping for each one is not easy to come by. So anything to help streamline that process, make it faster, make it more efficient, can save huge, huge resources for your organization. Next up, I want to give an example for how we're helping mining. Silver Standard is a Vancouver-based mining company. They're based on they're focused on operation, development, exploration, and acquisition of precious metals. Silver Standard owns and operates the Marigold mine in Nevada. They also operate the CB Gold operation in Saskatchewan, Canada, and the Perquitas mine in Argentina. So they are worldwide. And they use our drone mapping across many different departments. So for construction, that's the team in charge of working with subcontractors, and they use survey drones to monitor the construction progress, to see where things are at and how much progress has been made and how much is left to go. The processing team, they do the mining extraction process. So they actually use a survey drone to report any issues going on immediately, and they reduce foot traffic for inspections to minimize, again, having to shut the mine down at a huge expense and the potential of risks. Now, the technical service team is responsible for reporting and reconciliation, and the drone can make sure things on the job site are going according to plan, again, without having to shut everything down and without having to cause any safety issues. The environmental team has to worry about landfill and site status, and now the drone can fly over the landfill to report any irregularities instead of either having to have people out there or having to charter a plane at a massive, massive expense. Now they can fill it all the way up to the top, checking progress daily and maximize their value from it. And finally, the exploration team their job is to establish new reserves to mine, and that drone can help them cover more ground more quickly. And the last example I'm going to give today is Carmeuse. So usually there's kind of a split between the mining side that's actually doing the extraction out of the ground and then the material side. And Carmeuse is more materials. They do global limestone production. Their products are a vital part of many global industries, including construction, manufacturing, energy, and environmental services. Limestone is a vital ingredient in the materials that build and renew infrastructure around the world. And they use mapping drones for inspection, stripping, and inventory management. But even beyond that, their finance team is responsible for managing the inventory and working with capital. And they want to know how much inventory do we have on hand so we can write accurate balance sheets and cash flow statements. And the sales team needs to know how much is on hand so they're not under or overselling their inventory. So both the finance team and the sales team really, really value that accurately updated information to know what is really available. On the production management side, the production managers need to calculate how much is actually coming out of each blast. Sometimes the driller and the blaster disagree, so seeing the real results takes the drama out of everyday life and holds people accountable. And then on the inventory tracking side, this team is responsible for seeing exactly what's being mined. Is there an overcount? Is there an undercount? And that can affect the cost per ton and the inventory on hand. So for all those teams, having that accurate digital job site that everyone can look at and everyone can agree on is invaluable. And I sometimes think of the story where a couple of old blind men go up to an elephant and someone grabs the trunk and says, you know, I found a snake, and someone else grabs the ear and says, no, it's a giant leaf, and someone else grabs the tusk and thinks it's a unicorn, and they're all arguing about it, but it's because they can't see the big picture. This finally gets everyone on the team, all the different departments working together and able to actually objectively talk about the situation. The inspection team can reduce their risk where they're not having to send people out, conducting surveys for the stacks and the high walls and the railroad line inspections. The drone takes care of that for them, so they're empowered with that tool. And for stripping, they have to do the cut and fill report, seeing how that earth is being moved, and it allows them to hone in on the details of the stripping campaign even when managers aren't on site. So you can see how really across the company they're using this drone data to get these valuable insights and get the teams collaborating and working more efficiently. So you're probably thinking, man, this sounds nice, but who's going to train my people to do all this. It sounds like a lot of work. I'm sure you're already spread thin with a lot of job responsibilities, and it would legitimately be hard to find the time to integrate this and scale the solution internally, which is really where we come in. We do the training for you. We ensure that your teams are successful, that they're using it the right way and getting the full value out of it, that there's no stoppers. That's just part of the package. And that's why we're the enterprise choice. And with us, you're able to easily provide each department with a drone of their own. We take care of the training, the FAA compliance, the safety, data management, processing, troubleshooting, all that, and it just scales. We'd start out by having a conversation with the key stakeholders, understanding what your real strategic goals are for your organization, what your short-term and long-term goals are with drone mapping, what your success metrics are, so we can build out a personalized roadmap and customize your onboarding process and journey with drone mapping. And a lot of our customers, they still start out working with us just maybe on one job site, but then we're able to succeed there and then take it from an individual site to regional to national to global. So it's kind of that slow, gradual progression or fast progression as needed and as your organization is on board. So we find out, again, who your champions are going to be, and we get everyone set up and up to speed, ready to receive the data and take advantage of the data. The training and education comes in a variety of forms, everything from webinars like this to training guides, best practices, workshops, screen shares. We will not let you fall behind. we no matter what are on you to just make sure that you know what our latest and greatest technology is that's included, and you're able to get value out of it and take advantage of it. We have total support, both as on the flight team, FAA side, as well as the technical team side. So whether you have software questions or hardware questions or regulatory questions, there's always someone to talk to you that has, in some cases, decades of experience and has your back. And we also have a full online support module with everything from FAA training guides to certification, study materials, flight planning, step-by-step lists, breakdowns of site IQ, and more. So you have the in-person resources, but you also have the kind of 24/7 access anytime, anywhere to all these resources. And the customer success team will create and deliver quarterly check-ins even after you're fully trained up to make sure that your results measure up against your success criteria, that you're achieving what you want to achieve, and that you are aware of whatever new upgrades have come out since the last time we spoke. And so what's the true value of drone mapping? You can win more bids, you can track and increase profitability, you can improve your QA, quality assurance, and your safety, you can improve your client satisfaction and retention, and you do all that with a very accurate, very fast-moving, very integrated enterprise solution. We had a nice quote from Phil Schumacher, the Vice President of Operations at Bentley. It was that this is a tremendous marketing tool for us at Bentley. We work for some big companies where the VP doesn't get out to the site very often, and the ability to show potential clients before and after 3D graphics of our work gives them more confidence in describing it on a conference call ever could. Now we're not just asking them to take our word for it, we're bringing the real project right to them. So that's a great example of how it can help you win more bids on top of technology like Truck IQ that actually lets you see what your real cost per unit are. So all of a sudden, you can make much more informed bids instead of having to build in a 20 or 30 or 40% buffer and maybe not win the contract. Now you can know what you need to be profitable and to bake in a comfortable margin and virtually guarantee winning the deal and avoid unprofitable bids that would have cost you more than you would have gained